Have you ever been in holding and overheard what actors say about producers?
No, I haven't. Tell me more.
From what I understand, sometimes they're not prepared. I mean, a lot of times I think on commercials, actors will show up and they're just told what they're going to be doing, like as they're sitting in the makeup chair. They've not had scripts given to them beforehand. They've not been told what they're doing for the day. They literally just show up. And that blows my fucking mind.
It's one of my biggest pet peeves when I hear that talent are kind of treated like second-class citizens or
like an afterthought.
Or they're lucky to be there. I've literally heard this from on the client side. I'm not going to say, yeah, they're lucky to be here. But like, these people are career professionals, right? They are fully trained. They do this. So many of them that we work with do this for a full-time living. And, you know, they're SAG, they're professionals, and they're seasoned pros.
Actors should be considered a crew member. They have a job just like we do. So imagine our DP, our gaffer, hell, the craft service person shows up and they don't know what they're doing for the day. And they were not allowed to prep.
Script, or they're not properly prepped.
Or they thought that they were coming in to do a swimming scene and all of a sudden it's a bear fighting scene. I mean, that feels extreme, but let me tell you, we're in New York. It happens.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, like, we all have a job to do and we're a team. So they need to be prepped the same way that you would prep your VTR person.
Exactly. So after this episode, you're going to have a little more compassion for your on-camera talent because we chat with a very seasoned SAG-Aftra actor, Mike Nelson. I've worked with him a ton. I know, Christian, you like to call him Mustache Mike.
He just saw him in a Lotto commercial for the holidays.
Oh, I produced that one. It's on again. I did. How about that?
Did you have that sweater made with his mustache?
Yes.
Okay, that shit is good.
It is, exactly. We talked to Mike about what he needs as an actor to show up on set and feel prepared and confident and be able to do their best work.
We'll also learn how the shift from union to non-union work has affected him and others like him. And for our actor friends who are listening, some insight into how to audition properly so you can book the job. So stick around.
Welcome to the Producers Happy Hour with your hosts, Sister Christian and Lawrence Lewis.
We're two producers with over 20 years of experience each, chatting over drinks about what it means
and what it takes to be a good producer.
Join us for insightful interviews and informative show topics that will help you get through your toughest jobs,
biggest production challenges,
and most difficult clients. So grab a drink.
You're going to need it.
And let's get to it.
Because making shit
is hard.
I need a drink today, Christian. What about you?
I started drinking already.
Yeah, well.
Because I'm working, is why.
Okay. I'm not working, and so that makes me want to drink a little more. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're back with our Meet the Crew series. We're interviewing an actor.
I know, which I'm very excited about because I recognize him. When he popped in, I was like, oh shit, I've seen him a million times. And we all really need to understand that actors should be treated as well as we treat our crew. So today we're chatting with actor Mike Nelson.
Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. This is awesome.
Are you enjoying a drink with us for happy hour?
I'm having a little morning coffee right now, so
very good.
Is there something in it?
We're not
telling. Half and half, or it could be Goldschlager.
Something.
Holy cow! Yes.
What are you drinking, Christian?
Well, today I'm drinking some Rabbit Hole Kentucky Straight Bourbon because it's 12:05 at recording time, and I feel like I have met my match.
Today, I have a classic hot toddy. It's fall, right? It's autumn, and it's time for a warm little whiskey drink. And it's so easy. Yeah. I'll put the recipe in the show notes as usual. Heat up a little water, add a little whiskey, a little honey, a little lemon. It's good to go.
It's hoodie weather, so I'm very excited that it's finally gotten a little chilly in Los Angeles. It's great.
I love it. Let's dive in. But first, if you want to stay updated on our latest episodes, get our delicious cocktail recipes. That's most important. Plus some of our helpful producer hacks that we've learned over the many years we've been doing this. Join our newsletter. Now, I know what you're saying. Not another fucking email thing, Sister Christian. But don't worry. We won't do anything weird with your email address, probably. You'll just get a couple of emails a month from us full of great info. Sign up at producershappyhour.com. Now on to our interview. Mike is a union actor that was born and bred and schooled in the Hoosier State. Spent some formative years waiting tables, taking Second City classes, and doing storefront theater in Chicago, which is rough streets, everyone.
Rough streets, yes. But he's lived in LA since 2005 and has gone on to do over 80 national union commercials, which is amazing. Numerous feature films like The Mortuary Collection and Bullitt County, recurring roles on Blackish, and an upcoming Apple Plus show called Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. Welcome to the show, Mike Nelson.
Yes,
hey,
welcome.
So nice to be here. What an intro. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. So give us a little background on you. You know, as a young kid, at what point did you realize you wanted to be an actor?
I am what they call a very late bloomer.
Those are the best kind, my friend.
Sexually, for sure, late bloomer. I was raised Catholic, so I had a lot of guilt growing up. So I was scared of everything.
Maybe.
Everything was, you're going to hell. My first acting class I ever took was my sophomore year in college. I was actually petrified to be in front of people. As much as I was nervous and I would dry heave in these acting classes and stuff, I also got that little spark of like, wow, this is crazy. I'm kind of overcoming this fear, but I also really enjoy playing pretend as an adult. So moved to Chicago with a theater degree and just, did the same thing. Did Second City, waited tables, did theater with my buddies. And again, never thought this is a career choice. It was something fun that I liked to do, and started a sketch group called Dry Hump Comedy in Chicago that we brought out here to LA. And it was just
my favorite kind of comedy.
Yeah, it was kind of, we called it aggressively inappropriate sketch comedy. So it was very, very fun.
Love it.
Spent pretty much all of my 20s and early 30s doing this. I moved to LA when I was 30. Like, again, didn't move out here saying like, I have $20 in a dream. I had friends out here. I got my job transferred. I had a day job, so I got that transferred out to Los Angeles. Luckily, the first time I started auditioning, I was like 32 years old. Started booking stuff kind of straight away in the non-union world, and then joined the union when I was 33. So late bloomer in that sense of like, you hear like, he moved to LA when he was 30? Why? He's a grandfather.
Well, follow-up question. Do you remember the first commercial that you booked?
I actually do. It seems total bullshit, but this is legit.
Well, I can't wait.
First audition, non-union spot for, I think it was like a Sam's Club. It was like a big box store audition, and it was for Christmas time. And this is like the fall of 2007. I go to this place, and again, I've always had imposter syndrome. I started late. I walk into this place. It seems like everyone knows each other in the audition room. It's packed. There's a million rooms going on at once. And I'm just in the corner, seriously, like flop sweating, dry heaving, like panic attack, super anxiety. Like, what am I doing? I've made a horrible mistake. I walk into the audition, and it's one of those where it's just a reaction. They're just, someone's doing something on the foreground and you're just someone that reacts to it. I do that. I walk out of there, huge relief, like, oh my God, I made it through this audition. The next day, my agent's like, you got a call back. And I'm like, what? For that? For what I did yesterday? Awesome. Go into the callback. And it was a group callback. Director's there. And the director didn't really tell us what to do, but he said, don't do these things. He gave us a list of like, just don't do this. There's a couple on one side of the stage, and then there's me and another actor over here. And as soon as the director yells action for our callback audition, the actor I'm with does everything we were just told not to do. So I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, oh my God, this guy just blew it. We're dead. He's going to yell at us. Walk out there totally defeated, like, that was my chance. It's over. I'm going to just go back to Chicago. It's over. But then, I get the call like, you're on a veil. What's a veil? Oh, it means you're like, you're in the finals. You're kind of down to whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but the guy next to me. And so I learned that was my first thing. I book my first audition, first callback. I book it.
Oh my gosh.
And got to go shoot that in like Palm Desert or something. Was my first experience in Los Angeles on an audition. So I learned that.
You book your first audition? That's amazing.
Yeah, which is so stupid. It's crazy. One in a billion. But I also learned that you can kind of shine even if someone else doesn't in your audition or callback. Mm-hmm. And I learned that in my first audition, which was very lucky. I think that I learned that lesson of you never know how you're going to book or what you're going to book or why you're going to book. So just do your work and fingers crossed.
I think it's just fascinating that, like you said, you didn't come out here with stars in your eyes. You just loved this thing that made you a little nervous or petrified. And what's coming through is like this pure talent that you have inside. Been in many audition rooms where I see you come in as you, and that's just it. And here I am. I'm Mike Nelson. And lo and behold, you get booked. It's pretty fascinating. But what I want to get into is talking about SAG, because, that was a non-union thing. At some point, you became SAG. Do you remember when that happened? When did you get your SAG card?
I think it was 2007. I started auditioning, and I booked, 2 or 3 non-union spots. But I think I did this Hyundai spot. It was like Canada only Hyundai spot where I get sprayed with a hose. I walk by a girl that's washing her car, and this is like my patent pending Mike Nelson gig where I walk by and I'm kind of like the douchey neighbor where I'm like, hey, mind if I give your car a ride? And she sprays me with the hose, and I just kind of take the spray and I'm like, see you later. And just like keep on a walking. Like, hey, ladies, do you mind if I? Nope. All right. And then I just walk off the side. So that was the first union job I booked where I became SAG eligible. And then just a few months later, I booked a second union spot for, I think, Hotels.com. And then there was one for CC's Pizza. And that was the one where I had to go and plop down my money and do that. I was a must join. So I had to, in the span of, I think, like 6 months, where I went from non-union to, oh my gosh, I'm putting down a couple G's.
Yeah.
And I'm getting my SAG card, which was just the most exciting thing in the world to be like, I cannot believe I'm doing this. And I'm doing it through commercial work too. If you move to New York or London or Los Angeles, you're not like, I'm going to go become the king of commercials. Like no one.
No.
Everyone wants to do film and TV and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do these really sexy, cool jobs.
Commercials is where the money is.
Exactly. Where it's like you can support the rest of your acting career by, making money through voiceover or background or all of this stuff. And I learned that kind of quickly from auditioning, where I was like, this is amazing. I can pursue other things from the money I'm earning from doing, commercial work, which was really cool.
Exactly. What does being SAG mean to you, or now SAG-Aftra? There's a lot of stuff going on with unions and non-unions, but what does it mean to you? Is it something it seems like you do cherish?
Yeah, I really do. And I had to learn to cherish it more and more, because it was very exciting to, plop down that money and get your SAG card and be like, holy cow, I am in the same union of all your favorites and all these people that have blown you away your whole life. And just learning about, the reason SAG came about is actors of the day, the stars of the day were like, man, all of these other actors are getting treated like dog shit. We need to come up with something to protect you. So right away, I wasn't really involved on that front. I was just like, holy cow, I'm a card-carrying member with, Julia Roberts and, George Clooney and like Don Cheadle. We're peers. Yeah, exactly.
Right when you walk in
We're
the door.
The same, right? Everybody, right?
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Right, like equity.
Yeah. So that was just really exciting. But it took me years to kind of understand like what it really means and why it's so important. So over the years, once it starts becoming your career and not just like a hobby or something you're hoping to get, it became my career, where I was consistently making my living, and I quit my day job because I was consistently booking work over, a decade, where I was like, I need to know a little bit more. And I took that thing of like, I need to take some steps towards my own union. I'm part of this organization and I got to do my part in learning like, what the hell? Why is it important? Why should I belong to this group? Is it perfect? No organization's perfect. I have a lot of peccadillos and qualms about it. But the alternative, since I've lived on that side and I've booked non-union work, the alternative to union work is just so distinct and black and white. It's not good. The union is what we have, so we have to improve upon it and make it better, because as an actor, it's like you are protected. You have an organization that has your back. If you get treated shittily, or you get asked to do something unsafe or unsavory, or if they screw up your pay, if you're non-union, there's no real avenue for recourse. There's nowhere to go. At least with SAG, there are options, and you have this backing where you have this group that will go to bat for you.
Yeah, and I always looked at union jobs as like, for us as producers, now we have a set of rules. And you know what? It levels the field. It means that we follow these. Everybody knows what to expect when they show up, that there'll be breaks at a certain time. And if they're not, then there are penalties. We as good producers should not be defensive, because it's just guidelines for us to use. And if you're not doing them, then they're rules. Exactly.
Just a set of standards or rules.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Which we should all adhere by. A lot of them are just like, treat people ethically. is the rule. He's like, fuck.
That's kind of my biggest thing is
right.
We can get into like the philosophical debate of just of work in the United States, where you're seeing it in every walk, where workers are like, we're just asking for a livable wage, a possibility of having health insurance or retirement funds, or retirement dignity, and safety on where we work. And it's like, that is not a big ask. It's never been a big ask. It's like, it shouldn't be a big ask. Yeah.
You know, like some streaming services and other advertisers have started to either lower contracts or go non-union in general. Yep. Have you seen this affect you at all?
100%. It's really dire right now. And again, I'm not hopeless, but it's not super hopeful either. It's kind of this in between right now where the internet has changed every aspect of our lives, and it's affected advertising, and it's affected television and cable and all these things. So you have all these companies that are still trying to figure out, like, how do we get our new products and services out to the world? You know, is it while people are taking a shit, you know, on their solitaire game where something's going to pop up? So it's not, it was easier back in the day. Yeah, it was easier back in the day when it was like, we can put this product on an episode of Knots Landing on CBS on Thursdays at 7:30.
Exactly.
And we know that 11 million people are going to see it, where now it's the Wild West. So as an actor, I'm just hoping that we can just remain part of this ecosystem. And right now, it's just really tough for everyone. Everyone I talk to in the ecosystem, you guys included, it's like producers, advertising agencies, casting directors, managers and agents and actors. Everyone is feeling this push down from the top of, we want more agility, more flexibility. We want the ability to take this thing that we shoot and carve it up and put it on a million things for this very low price, for this price that is very difficult to do. So we're as actors, we are very low on the food chain. But my hope is that there can be kind of a little bit of a rediscovery and a pushback of the human element of all of this that goes into making advertising good. Right now, I think we're at this point where too many brands, and this is just my opinion, think that advertising is disposable and they just need to get their name out there. They just need to let you know that Sonic is still a restaurant that you can go and get burgers for $5. They just want to let you know that they're still open for business. So they don't really care that much about the content, because they've gone back and forth with union and non-union. Just as an example, but hundreds upon hundreds of companies, and these companies, you know, if you read their profits every quarter that they got, it's like most profits since last quarter, which were the most profits since the quarter before that. And it's like that for years. So we're dealing with cut costs at all costs, and yet we want to make the most profit every quarter. So it's this, can you do more for less? Can you do more for less?
We say it all the time on this show, late stage capitalism. The idea of indefinite profit growth.
Coupled with cost cutting.
Right. It's just like, I don't understand how that's supposed to be feasible.
Actors, the crew, the directors, the producers, the drivers, everybody involved in advertising. It's like everyone just wants a livable wage and to be treated like a human being. These companies did that for decades. That's the thing. I've kind of had this like epiphany of, oh, that ship has sailed. We can't do that anymore. We can't pay people livable wage like we did in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And I'm like, but you did do that for 30 years straight. And your companies were still profitable. The CEO still made an obscene amount of money. Your shareholders still did well on the markets. And yet you still paid, you know, the fast talking FedEx guy a lot of money back in the 80s. And you were fine.
One advertiser, I think it was a cosmetic brand, in some article, probably on some trade magazine, was saying that we had the budget to make 2 national broadcast commercials a year. Now, in order to stay relevant in front of everybody, we have to make 50 pieces of content a month.
Yep.
And with that same budget.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the caveat, is the same budget. So that's the thing, is the brand, I think, just calls up the agency, and there's no agency of record anymore, which used to be. You used to have the same agency for decades with the same brands, and it was just, they didn't go out, they didn't bid out their work, but now every piece of that 50-piece content gets bid out. So it's a free-for-all, and you have a lot of these smaller, more agile companies that are newer and younger that are like, we'll do it for $1.
Exactly.
So a lot of these brands are like, let's go with the cheap kids and see if they'll do it. So yeah, there's this push down of, then the agency turns to production companies and they're like, can you do this for $1? And the production company's like, it's Coca-Cola, or it's some huge UPS, or it's Disney. And they're like, that looks good on our resume that we're working with them. So we know a way you can do it for $1. Yeah. We can go non-union. We can shoot it in Mexico or Vancouver. We can save on the crew and the actors. And it's like, ugh. Mm-hmm.
And it's not even the small upstart production companies. Yeah. It's the big ones that are making their secret non-union arm so they can capture as much of the projects as possible, because with overhead, and I don't know how these behemoth production companies stay afloat on just their 20 to 25% markup. They need to grab every single job they can get. So they have to be flexible, and they have to figure out how to grab those cheap ones too. I was in one room with a CMO of a big fast food chain, and it was non-union, and we put out the break. I can't say. We put out the breakdown, and like the buyout for the actors, it was just so insulting. It was something so criminally low. And when the breakdown came out, some people saw it, and they rallied around and threatened to bring a picket line. SAG actors, we saw it and was like, that is insane. Also, this is a huge chain. It should be union. But even if it's not, that rate's ridiculous. We're going to come picket. And I don't know how it got settled, but I remember being in the room with the CMO at the time, and they said, do we still have this problem with these actors who are mad about this rate? I mean, they should be happy. They're getting on a commercial for this product. It's going to boost their career.
I try to explain this because, people see my face on television, like, hey, look at this mustachioed idiot hawking whatever. He must be doing great. He must have a house in the hills and driving a Rolls Royce. And it's like, that just is not the case.
It's not the case anymore.
Take, for example, it's like, I remember some of those non-union jobs, and it would be like, a $1,500 buyout. And sometimes it was for 2 and 3 years use, so it'd be like...
Or in perpetuity.
Yeah, in perpetuity, which should be illegal. So there's even some of those commercials which people at home should know that like in perpetuity means they can use your name and your likeness and your voice forever for a one-time buyout, which can be hundreds of dollars. And which is hilarious because we've learned now in this kind of weird... negative, everyone's kind of out for themselves. There's no sense of community now that everyone's feeling the pinch. Everyone is like, I gotta keep my doors open, or I gotta keep my lights on, or I gotta keep food on the table. Everyone's become very non-communal and more selfish, in my opinion. These are just my opinions again, but we've lost sight of, you might get that $1,500 for a 3-year buyout. So that's $500 a year you're earning, and then you give half of that to your agent or manager, some of which are double dipping, which is another thing that we could get into that should be illegal, but isn't per se. They're charging the producers an agency fee, and then they'll take another 10 or 20% from the actor's amount. And then you got the tax man. So that $1,500 might turn into like $700 or $800 take home. And you might be on national TV during football season or during the Academy Awards. And people think you made tens of thousands of dollars where you maybe made $700 for 3 years.
The other conundrum you could get into is, even if that commercial didn't ask for exclusivity in that category of advertiser, you could get another offer from another fast food chain that wants to book you, and they want exclusivity. But they're not going to take you because you did this non-union thing, or you did another job that is holding you up for 3 years in that category.
For sure. There are horror stories on the actors front where actors talk to each other and they're like, did you hear about so-and-so? He or she was supposed to be, some huge spokesman, but they had some non-union commercials still around on the internet or whatever, and the company went a different way. And you're like, you're talking about maybe hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in a lost opportunity. So that's my saddest thing. I'm very pro-union, and sometimes I get actors that are non-union or are pre-members or FICOR, and they're like, you just want all jobs union for yourselves. And I'm like, no, I want union opportunities for all actors. If you're just starting out, I had opportunities to book union work, and I got to see the difference between non-union and union work, and union pay and non-union pay and benefits early on in my career, where I think there's too many actors right now that have spent years booking non-union work. They don't know the alternative. They think $1,500 is the going rate to be in a fast food commercial. And it's like, that is not necessarily so. And then on top of that, they're getting nothing towards their healthcare. So they have to pony up for healthcare out of their own pocket. And they have no retirement funds, and they might be in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they haven't started a retirement fund. It's like, these should be necessities. This should be normal life stuff for all employees in the United States. If you work and what you do is quality work, you should be paid accordingly accordingly and should have that.
I want to move on and ask you a little bit more, but we talked about at the top of the show is your engagement with producers and production teams. And what does that look like from the actor side? Because I know a lot of production teams don't treat actors with the kind of same respect or care that we treat the crew. We know that, the gaffer needs to know everything about this job and the shoot so he can tell his team and communicate and have the right tools. And I feel like the same should be applied to the actors because they're just as an important part of the team. And I don't think that care is distributed as it should be. So, what's your experience from your side of engaging with, I know you've been on my commercials. I don't think we ever really talk, but you talk to my production teams or the agents talk to you. What's your experience on how that communication is handled?
Yeah, I think you just hit it right there. That word communication is everything. As an actor, you just want to be in the know of what's going on. The thing as a performer that is like my ninth circle of hell and something that scares me is just feeling like you're unprepared. We all are people pleasers as actors. We want to do a good job. We want to perform well enough that maybe people will remember us and use us down the road. So that's kind of the big thing. So sometimes, just the communication, if it's not kind of set up from the jump of who you can turn to or can you raise your hand and ask a question or whatever. Communication is key. Getting a call sheet and knowing where you're shooting and when you're maybe going to be needed on set. It's simple stuff like that. I don't need to be coddled at all. And I don't need much to feel like, oh, the set is run properly. But I think as producers, the best ones that I've worked with, you yourself included, there's kind of just a top-down mentality. If there's a really cool rapport between the producer and the crew and the director, and then that feeds to the director talking to the actors and the ADs, and there's kind of this chain of command where as an actor, you feel safe and supported, and you do have the freedom and ability to talk to an AD, to a producer, to the director, and just feel like your voice is being heard. There's all these little things that, as actors, we always don't rock the boat. Just keep your head down. Just please everyone. Just say yes to everything and go with it. And it's like, as I've been doing this long enough, you can just see there's a difference where sometimes you feel like you are almost a nuisance or you're just like, ugh. And that's a shitty feeling to have on any work set or environment. You just don't want to feel like you're left out. So I think communication to the actor of just feeling like they're part of the team is everything.
I mean, I agree with that because we're expecting you to be at your best. In order for you to be that way, you have to have information.
Yeah.
Right?
And when actors feel supported and safe and, oh, this is a fun set, like the director and producer are making sure that even when shit happens, because you guys know shit happens on every shoot day of every production ever, but it's how it's handled. And if it's like, oh, we're going to roll with the punches. We're agile, we're flexible. We're going to make this work. As an actor, you're like, this is cool. This is a nice set. That always is like a top-down thing, and you can feel that as an actor. Those are my best jobs. That's when you walk away and you can see that as an actor, I felt like I got to do my best work. The director's giving thumbs up to everyone. The crew is happy that we didn't go way over, and they're like, I can go home to my families and have a meal with my family. And the clients are walking away, too, that are just like, that was way better than we even expected. If that all comes together, that happens quite often. And that's a great thing.
It can. And it's actually like kind, human, like humanity. The treatment is like how you would want golden rules shit. And it's all basic enough to where like it's hard because I have to stop some people sometimes and say, listen, I understand that there was a producer out there that treated you poorly and did something to you that you have brought into assuming that I'm going to do. And I get that. Why don't we pretend for now that I'm not going to do that and just start over? And when I say that, it usually just breaks down. Okay, fine. You're right. So, okay, now we can communicate, right?
That's like all relationships. Yeah. Not to bring in your baggage. But I've seen that again, like in non-union stuff, hearkening back to those first few jobs. It's like really the only director, and I won't name names, but the only director that was like a yeller and a tyrant and kind of made just the whole set feel like walking on eggshells was one of the first 3 jobs I ever did. And I was like, took it as, oh, maybe this is how everyone works. And then I realized after working, getting in the union, working all these union jobs, like, no, that person was the outlier.
It's just Pitka.
Yeah.
And, well, there's a few others I could name too. Exactly. I always name names. I don't care.
I know. It's okay. He's never going to hire me, so I don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And the example too that I've seen just first person too, a lot of my friends do background work, and they, a lot of times they can just be treated as, second class in so many ways where it's like, you guys go stand with no shade in the sun on an asphalt parking lot, and we'll give you 2 folding chairs and there's 60 of you, and it's like, you eat last, and all these things that have always made me feel like, oh my God, it's so like they're human beings that are making, a little bit of money, and they're hungry and they need shade and bottled water and just to be treated as such. Everyone on that set from top to bottom should be like, hey, we're all in this together. Let's do something good together, and everybody wins.
Very true.
So do you have any words of wisdom for young actors out there trying to get their careers going?
I've learned so many things over the years. I've always prepared and taking everything seriously, even if it's an audition for a no-line, internet-only commercial. It's like, I'll spend a little bit of time to come up with some ideas of what I might do in the audition or the callback, because I think a lot of people, just going to auditions is like just kind of half-assing it. And I just know that's not going to work. And then when you are performing, just to be committed, making bold decisions and making decisions that might be wrong. And on the same side of that token is to be flexible, to be directable, because you see that sometimes. I've been lucky enough to sit on the other side of casting, helping out producers or directors that are friends of mine, and it was the most enlightening experience. So as an actor, if you can sit on the other side of the casting table, you just learn to take it easy on yourself. If you're doing the work and you're making good decisions, it's like you're doing a great job. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing, and to kind of give yourself a break, because a lot of times you don't book work and the first thing an actor is going to do is like, you're a piece of shit. You should quit. You'll never work in this town again. You're awful and everyone hates you.
I mean, I do that when I don't get a phone call in a week. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst producer in the world. They hate me.
A whole week.
Well, usually 3 days. Usually 3 days, to be honest. But.
And then if you are on set, is to not bother anyone, and at the same time observe what everyone's doing and kind of learn how a set works, and always be nearby. So if they do need you, if they do change up the shots and they're like, hey, is Mike around? And you're like, hey, I'm right here. I'm right next to set. I know that ADs, directors, producers, everyone appreciates that you're not wasting anyone's time. So you're just paying attention, and you're just, a team player, and you're right there all the time.
Ready for action.
So do what you do best. It's like, again, you've heard that a bunch too, of not to really emulate anybody else, because you are the only person that has your life experience, and find out kind of what your bag is, and do that earnestly and genuinely, each and every time. And when you're consistent, I think when you cultivate these relationships with casting and directors and producers, where if you show them that this person's always a pro, they're flexible. I can throw anything at them. I can put them through the ringer, and they just go with it and they keep killing it.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to go through your life and be like, I never had any opportunities.
You show up genuinely as yourself. You bring some bold choices to the table, and don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick is for real. It's number one in everything. It's like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Don't be a dick is, because everyone is going to remember that. If you were a dick to anyone, and I don't care who it is, everyone feels like, I treat the director and producer and the clients this way, and then I treat everyone like trash. It's like, no. The director talks to everyone on set. The producer knows the crew. If you were really talented, you could get away with that back in the day. And now people just don't have time for that. Life is hard enough as it is. The world is tough. You want to hang out with someone all day on a set? That's a big thing. Do you want to be a person, that people will want to hang out with all day? Yeah. Maybe on a 14-hour shoot, you better be pretty cool and be nice to be around.
Yeah, exactly. Mike, you have a podcast.
Yes, I do. Like a dream came true last year in 2021. I had been trying to get on my favorite game show of all time, Jeopardy, for 20 plus years. And last year I finally got on the show, and I incredibly won 3 games of Jeopardy. So I'm a 3-time Jeopardy champ.
Amazing.
So after my run on Jeopardy last spring, a good friend of mine called me up, and she's like, I want to do a podcast. I'll help you produce it. You're hosting it. Let's go. Because I had been doing Zoom trivia for friends throughout the pandemic, and I've been doing game nights at my house, and I've played pub trivia for decades, and it just all came together. So we worked on it for about a year, and we came up with this weekly trivia podcast. It's called You Should Know Better, because we all should know better, and we should always be learning. That's our goal here, is always be learning and always be on the prowl to know better. There's kind of like a 2-pronged endorphin rush when it comes to trivia. If you do know the answer, you get this little kick where you're like, I fucking know what the capital of Vermont is. It's Montpelier. Yeah. You also get this endorphin rush when you learn something kind of cool and new, where you're like, I didn't know David Lynch directed The Elephant Man. Did you know that? David Lynch, of all the weird stuff, directed The Elephant Man. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. So when I learn something new, I always get this I'm going to remember that. That's a good one. So yeah, we have 2 people come on. They're usually in the industry, a lot of actors and writers and directors and whatnot, as well as some former Jeopardy champs. We have episodes where we have Jeopardy champs come on. They're all playing for a charity of their choice, because that was a big part of our show, was to play for charity. Win or lose, we're going to make a donation to these people, to the great charities they bring up. I thought it would be fun. It is the most fun thing like I've ever done. It's just so cool and great to catch up with really great, funny people and play some trivia online. So yeah, you should know better.
Sounds like a blast. You should know better on all the apps and players.
Yep, wherever you can find your podcasts, as we all say. And yeah, it's like anytime it's shared, or like you guys with your podcast, it's like, to just spend a second and hit that 5-star rating and write a review for your guys' podcast and mine. It's like, that stuff helps. It really helps. Yeah. So check it out.
This has been fantastic.
Mike, thank you so much for having a drink with us today, spending happy hour with us.
My pleasure. This was great. Anytime. I'd love to come back.
What's the best way for people to find you, talk to you, besides listening to your podcast?
Yeah, they can follow me on the social medias. My name is very vanilla, so I couldn't get just Mike Nelson. Of course, there's 6 billion Mike Nelsons on the planet. So I think on social media, I think I'm Mike C. Nelson and then the number 1. So Mike C. Nelson 1 on almost everything. Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, they can find me on.
Amazing. Yeah.
And Lawrence, if anybody wants you, how can they get you?
Oh, so many ways. LawrenceTLewis.com. For producing, voiceover work is voiceoflawrence.com. Maybe walking down the street, I don't know, Sunset and Gower, somewhere around there. I don't know. Sister Christian, how about you?
I'm sisterchristianproduces.com. Anytime, just come on in.
Thanks, Mike.
Fantastic.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye, all.
Producers Happy Hour is brought to you with the help of the handsome Christopher Daniels,
who is a design and branding specialist,
and Brendan Russell at podlad.com, who is our fabulous editor.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to dive deeper, subscribe to our listeners' newsletter. Simply go to producershappyhour.com to sign up.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
enjoy happy hour while you can.
Because making shit is hard.